Just cutting in here to let you know about some other stuff on the network that you may enjoy, like the show Abject Suffering. It is nominally about bad video games, but usually ends up being kind of just a comedy show about whatever the mood strikes us to talk about. But it always starts with the game. We've got legendary bad games like Action 52 or Bubsy 3D. But we also have stuff that ends up being pretty good, like Pac-Man 2, or just really weird stuff like The Zoo Race. I don't know, it's a show we really enjoy doing, and we would love it if you listened. And you can find that at Duckfeed.tv/Abject Suffering or iTunes or anything like that, along with so much more. And all of it is supported by our backers on Patreon at patreon.com/DuckFeed.tv. All right, enough of that. Go check that out, but do it after you listen to this really cool episode. Thanks.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
The Undead Legion of Farron is a caravan of undead, sworn by wolf's blood to contain the abyss. The Legion will bury a kingdom at the first sign of exposure. Joyous bunch, really.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And my name is Austin Walker.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is Farron's favorite.
And
the Little League team, the saddest.
Appropriate to that, this week we are covering Farron's Keep. And as you heard, we are joined by Austin Walker, formerly of Giant Bomb, still?
Yeah, formerly
there we go.
now, as of last Friday, it was my last day there. And not yet of Vice.com/gaming or whatever we end up renaming our new gaming site there. I started there on the 5th, and we're recording this before that, the 5th of July. So I'm in between. I'm in between things right now.
Yeah, just chilling, trying to find yourself.
Yeah. Doing a little traveling, backpacking around Europe.
Yeah.
In a career sense.
Yeah.
Backpacking around Farron's Keep. Actually, that's.
Yeah. Austin, you're one of our most requested guests, actually. So it's fantastic for you to join us.
You're sure this isn't just a trap to get me to explain why I like Dark Souls 2, right? Because everyone I know who is like, Austin, you need to go on podcast to talk about Dark Souls. It's always like, and explain why you're one of those weird Dark Souls 2 people.
You're in good company there. We like Dark Souls 2 as well.
That game's pretty good. I like that game a bunch.
It is. That was the entirety of that year of our lives.
So I listened to that entire season, and it was just like, every time you got a letter that was like, all right guys, but come on, this is bad. It was just the most frustrating, like, no, this area is really good, actually. Like, I don't know, it's a subjective thing. People come for different reasons. Some people don't like fighting lots of bosses, I guess, but I kind of do. So, we'll get to that this episode probably.
Yep.
In a sense. So yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It's been I legit used to listen to Bonfireside Chat back when I was doing PhD work up in Canada. I used to like trudge through the snow and listen to your voices talk about Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2, and it was it's really intense for me to be like, oh yeah, and 2 years later here I am on the show with you. So thanks again for having me on.
That's immensely flattering.
It is.
We're both fans of yours, so that's really cool to hear.
Yep. So what do we do? What do we talk about?
Yeah. So talk a little bit for people. So how did you get into to Dark Souls? Just to kind of in general, you don't have to specify too. How did you get into it? And
how I got into Souls, because it's one of those great stories of it being this. So Demon Souls came out, and I had a friend who was like, they're never going to localize this game. You have to get the Japanese version. And I was like, this seems like a hard game to play in Japanese. And he was like, no, there's a whole community. You should definitely import it. And I was like, all right, I'll import it. And then I played through all of Demon Souls in Japanese, and then was incredibly frustrated when, like, weeks after finishing it, they announced that they were going to localize it. But like, it was one of those things of, I had never played a game like it before, and had never really engaged with something that was so community driven that, like, obviously the Soul series has always been very driven by community, wikis and forum posts and lore videos and all of that. But imagine all of that plus also this extra layer of like, and there's only 3 people on this forum who know Japanese. And so it's like those 3 people debating what something means, like what the best translation of something is, or like, the one person who swears that there is a bonus, item or, hidden item somewhere if you just take this one jump. But like, how am I supposed to trust you? Like, you're the only person who's found this in the English speaking world and speaking about it. So that was like a really intense first visit to it. And I think that also means that I have less fondness, because that was my entry point. I have less fondness than most people do of the kind of Clockwork World design of Dark Souls 1. I don't dislike it. I think it's good. I think it's solid. Like I understand why people are blown away by it when they like look down and see how far they've come and see how everything is intricately woven together. But because my first experience was the hubbest of hub worlds, I guess maybe until Dark Souls 3. No, I think even Demon Souls is even more hubby than 3.
Hubby.
I'm like totally fine. It's hubby, exactly. I'm fine with that. I've always been kind of like more interested in broad spaces, or like the traveling over broad distances and the vision of the different styles of space than I have been in the interweaving of it that you see in 1. It's done really eloquently in 1, and like I appreciate it. But it's never been like the takeaway, which means that 2 and 3 have been pretty good for me.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there's anything else big. I'm the sort of guy who just wants to listen to the Majula theme all day long. Like that's just the sort of guy I am, and like that's gonna the melancholy of the Majula theme, and like the way in which I think Majula is this really great vision of people suffering in that world but suffering together is probably why I like Farron Keep so much also, and we'll get to that probably a lot later. It's like the dark metal tail side of that. Instead of the nice sunset, it's like the darkness and blades and blood, but like it still feels like, oh, this is how communities work. And I'll talk a little. I definitely want to get back to that when we maybe get to the end of talking about the keep.
Is that why you kind of gravitated towards coming on this episode? Because I know this was a strong preference to appear on the Farron's Keep.
So I think Abyss Watchers is my favorite boss in the series in all the Soul series. But also I kind of fucking hate Farron Keep. And like that's important to me, is that like it's a pain to play through. It represents, it's the poison pit of this game, right? It's the one you're gonna fucking drag yourself through and hate all the while, but it's also for me this incredible high point. And I think in general it's one of these zones that's like a really nice microcosm of Dark Souls in general. So that's kind of why I gravitated towards it.
Yeah, it is a great boss. It is a great boss in the area. I did the it's one of those things that's real weird because the critical path is so direct and kind of painless. Yeah. And then as soon as you start poking into any of the corners, like get fucked, can't roll.
It rebukes you. Yeah.
Yeah.
God. Especially so the other thing there is like coming off of Bloodborne, I'd gotten so much better at dodging. Not that I had never played a build that dodged before or something. Like I wasn't just in Havels my whole time through Souls, but like it was still like, oh man, like I've gotten so much better at dodging out of the way and at like not needing to have my shield up all the time. Coming off of Bloodborne, like I'm just a more aggressive player, and then hitting this zone where it was just huge pits of muck that prevented you from moving, in a quick way was just like, fuck this whole area. Like, this is not what I'm here for.
Like, please do not enforce attrition. Yeah.
Right. It's already Dark Souls, guys. Like I get it.
This area is the Dark Souls of Dark Souls. We're
through the looking glass.
The nesting, the nesting doll of the thing. Real quick, we were talking about Majula. One of the things I love, because we picked up on that too, but I love that the achievement when you get everybody, the achievement for bringing everybody back to Majula is like a gathering of exiles.
Yes,
or something like that. Yeah, like really underlines that kind of community. Like this is everyone, their backs against the darkness,
and like no one's from there, right? Like it's a bunch of people who are like, oh yeah, I'm a historian from a different place, like got led here. I'm a shopkeeper from a different place who wound up here. Don't even ask about the Emerald Herald's history. Like that's what a mess that is.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, we all wound up here, and like this is the one little refuge we have. And again, maybe this is because I came in at Demon Souls, but like having a place of refuge that you return to, like not that I'm not saying that that Dark Souls 1 didn't have that at all, but like the hub travel system of being able to return from the bonfire back to Majula is like immediately from the start of the game is a much different thing than why am I blanking on the most important place in Dark Souls 1?
Firelink.
Firelink Shrine, right. Like that's a much different vibe. So I liked having that immediately.
Yeah.
I just assume that the cat owns all of Majula. It's like it's like when you have those crazy old ladies who leave a cat in charge of their house in their will. Like technically the cat's landlord. You're renting from her.
And just in this case, it just said like 1 and then in parentheses 1 Majula. That's left for the cat. That's it. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I love it when people come on the show and they have a really strong preference for where they're going to play, especially when it's something like this where it's not. Because for this season, everybody who I asked, like a lot of people are just like, "Oh man, Irithyll, Irithyll, got to do Irithyll, got to do the big thing that happens there that we don't talk about just yet."
Nope.
But the people really wanted that. But I like it when people hone in on an area that is maybe less loved, which is definitely Farron's Keep.
I get why you want to do Irithyll from top to bottom. Irithyll is a very interesting place. I'm excited to get to your episode about it. But like sometimes there's a conversation that's going to be had and you know what that conversation looks like. And I think that's a lot of the Irithyll conversation. And I think it's a good conversation. I'm excited to hear it. But like I want to have the other conversation. I want to have the conversation about like the mucky place that happens to have some really cool stuff in it. That's more interesting of a conversation for me to have, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. So I mean, we kind of hinted around it. I mean, you probably know if, most people who are listening to this know your work, formerly of Giant Bomb. Where else, just real briefly, where else would people know you from other than, I know that's what you've been doing recently.
Yeah. So for the last year, I've been at Giant Bomb. Before that, I had some freelance reviews at places like GameSpot. I did a lot of my work at Paste.com when they did game stuff. I run a tabletop game podcast called Friends at the Table, which is at friendsattetable.net or Friends at the Table on iTunes. And I used to do a lot of streaming with a group called Stream Friends, which included some other people like Janine Hawkins and Phil Kohler from Polygon and some other people. Yeah. So I've been around. It's like I've done a lot of stuff. And at Giant Bomb, obviously, I did some reviews, and we did a weekly podcast called The Beastcast, which included my good friends Vinny, Alex, and Jeff. And Vinny was a very big Dark Souls fan, and it is one of my great laments that we never got to sit down and do a Dark Souls lore podcast because he's a man who loves lore, but like only knows he knows his Dark Souls lore, but he hasn't had the opportunity to dig in super deep, and I think he would really enjoy that. You should get him on the show at some point. I'll put you guys in contact if you want in the future. Excuse me, in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, put a bug in his ear. That would be great.
Yeah, we'll do.
So very cool. Cole, what did we do last episode?
Well, last time we followed the road of sacrifices to one of its far ends when we sacked the Cathedral of the Deep and we found the coffin of Aldrich, Devourer of the Gods, empty. Now we reverse our course and we have this strange figurine in our hands and we are at this swamp that is at the base of the road that we've kind of seen kind of like resting at the bottom of the world from on high in the Undead Settlement and such.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you go through like the longest ladder in the game to get down here is really kind of weird in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Snake Eater theme plays in reverse as you go down it.
Put acid on the PlayStation Store. So this place, Farron's Keep, is this long dead ruin where warriors lived and fought and died and has sunk into the ground and been reclaimed by this rotted forest. And the spirits of those who fought the abyss are trying to rest. And there are those to protect them and those that are just kind of hanging out. being gross demon monster things.
Yeah.
Yes, the descendants of their acolytes, these grew. And if we dig in further, we find out from Hawkwood that this was the home of Farron's undead legion, this group of knights and warriors who follow in the footsteps of at least the legend of Artorias, kind of fighting back against the abyss, right? Like there's lore that says they will raise whole kingdoms at the first sign of the abyss kind of like cropping up here. Like, oh no, you don't, Kath. And
they're like the space marines of Dark Souls, and that they're just like, no, we don't fuck around. Like any darkness, we're here. It's done.
Hey, you guys knock it out over there. Yep.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So we also know from the intro that the Undead Legion, they're one of the Lords of Cinder, kind of collectively. Again, an echo of Dark Souls 1, where the Four Kings were like a group held one of the souls. They once linked the fire together, but instead of returning to their throne, they've kind of gone back to their duty in a weird way. Also, this is probably Darkroot and Ulyssil.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Let's not even pretend. Let's not even do the devil's advocate thing here. Like Elizabeth is here. Like that's not even a joke.
I'm always very like hesitant to make an absolute statement, but like so much of this, like this is the Dark Souls 1 area.
Mm-hmm.
At least in terms of like the majority of the substance of what you're going through. Like later stuff notwithstanding.
You know what? I was maybe a little dismissive. I would humor a counter argument because that would have to be an amazing stretch that I would just love to see. So if someone has one, I would definitely love to hear it. So shoot it at me, Austin_Walker on Twitter.
It would just involve convergence. Yeah. Like it would be anytime there's an amazing stretch, it's just the fact that the world are colliding. Yeah. Like this is what it's like when worlds collide. Dark Souls 3 tagline.
Yep.
This is what became of our Darkroot and our Ulyssil and a little bit of our Undead Burg, as we'll see, which is kind of interesting, kind of a cool set piece. We get down here just kind of aesthetically. This is a real hazy, smoggy, gross bog, and you can barely the skybox gets really obscured. You can barely see Lothric. You can barely see the structures off in the distance. Here,
yes, yeah,
cool. They kind of keep in the middle, and
you can also look down from various places and see the keep. You can see, especially later when there's the fire burning, you can look down and see that. Yeah. I don't know if it's like clouds of smoke coming up from it or what, but I remember later being able to look down from the bridge. And I've been down there. Yeah. But it's one of those great spots where, I guess a minute ago I was talking about how I don't really care for, or it doesn't blow me away when there's the clockwork connective tissue stuff. But the thing I like about this is that when you look down from above at it, it's so unremarkable until you've been there. Like you just assume that it's like filler. Like, oh, well, that's just not like, I can see if you're looking down from Lothric and you see like, oh, there's a castle over there. There's a church over there. There's a cathedral. Like I'm going to go to those places, but you would never look down here into the muck right under you and like understand that that's one of the main, that's where one of the Lords of Cinder is, literally under your feet.
Yeah, it is definitely one of the most like visibly decayed places that we've seen. Like this has been 100% reclaimed by the land. The only thing that implies that this is a keep is like in maybe the perimeter is mostly walls that are above, but like everything at the center of it has just kind of like been Mexico City'd down into the bog.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which is weird. Like, so that's one of the main, for me, that's one of the big things that differentiates it from previous like areas of poison in past Dark Souls games, right? Like those are often really vertical. Whether you're falling through, broken shacks from one to another, or it's always like weird vertical platforming, and like dodging traps, or like dealing with the fact that there are undodgeable traps, or there are enemies that will poison you. But here it's just like, no, it's all around you and flattened out. Good luck,
It's actually really similar to structure to Road of Sacrifices, the swamp outside of there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the Covenant that we find here also covers that area. So it's kind of, there's a little bit of an implication that they're, it's under the same kind of ward.
Right.
Yeah.
But that kind of, there's kind of three central paths. The weird thing about this too is that like, if you just want to make your way, you get this message from Hawkwood that says, hey, extinguish the fires. That's like, I mean, I think there's going to be three fires, you go extinguish them. And if you follow the fire, Like, this is a really simple area. Like, it's unlike every other swamp area in the game. It's the goal is not to lose you. You know, if you are trying to follow the critical path, like, you just follow the light and you'll do just fine here.
Yeah.
It's just when you start exploring.
What if I'm missing something? What if I'm missing treasure somewhere? What if I'm missing gear? And like, again, like for me, that's this great little microcosm of Dark Souls of like, we talk about the difficulty of Dark Souls a lot, but we don't often talk about the ways in which it can really push you in the right direction and offer you the, you know, having messages in the game directly, having the ability to summon people. There are all these ways in which it can totally help you just power through if you're willing to. But so often the reason that Dark Souls can be such a hard series is because you go, no, I have it in my head that I'm going to go do this other thing, or I'm going to sequence break, or I'm not going to summon. And that's on you in some way. And here that's the same thing of like, if you just want to follow the path, you can move forward. Don't like, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
But you get that little whisper in your ear and go like, I wonder what's behind that weird enemy who's pacing back and forth. I wonder what's in that hollowed out tree stump. And the answer is like nothing that important, if I recall. But
soul of a nameless soldier?
Oh boy.
Hot dang. That was worth this basilisk trap.
Don't spend it all at one place.
God, the basilisk. Yeah.
What's funny is, so like if you look at you know, Blighttown as like this advancement of the Valley of Defilement, you know, the top area, and then kind of the bog area, and then if you look at like the what is it, the pit, not the pit, the gutter, there we go,
the gutter.
Like the gutter, which is just like one whole big stage that is just kind of the top level of Blighttown, you know, but like a really good version of that, in my opinion, right? Just kind of like, let's take this kind of precarious, rickety society almost, and, you know, have you go through it, and, you know, make you really feel like you're invading it, just like you did in Blighttown. This is, I think, kind of the apotheosis of that bottom part, again, because of that, you know, you make your own pain kind of side of it, right? Like the bottom of Blighttown, you are kind of like running up to these struts, and you're trying to, you know, you see the items glimmering in the distance, and almost always you're rewarded with something that, you know, attacks you or makes your life difficult, but like you're still kind of like making these like small little tentative like grasps out into, you know, into the haze under this oppressive atmosphere, right? Like it's weird. However, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's just it's strange how over the course of two sequels they like split that area up into two, and then like try to like really focus on like the aspects that made both of them distinct.
Well, and for me, the other thing here that's really weird is that feeling of openness, because it's not a thing you get that often in Dark Souls, where it's, you know, Dark Souls games have multiple paths that you can go down, and they wrap back around on themselves in interesting ways, and there is a degree of mental mapping of spaces. But this is like the most, like, you come out of, it's like it is like the antithesis. It is like the emotional antithesis of the Bethesda moment, where you step out from below and you, oh, look at the light, it's beautiful, I can go anywhere here. Except here, it's like you walk into the keep and it's like, well, shit, where am I supposed to? I could go in any direction here. How am I supposed to know which is like the good way? And that is really a clever way to make you feel completely oppressed by the keep.
There are no walls, and that is precisely the problem.
This is why they burn down kingdoms, because there aren't walls for the dark, right? Like, it's way easier to just be like, all right, just kill everything. Like, we can't, look how big everything is. The darkness can be anywhere. Just set it on fire.
It's really expedition based. Like, every time I've gone through this, I've done the critical path, and then you find that kind of central bonfire, and you're just like, okay, what's left? And because everything poisoned you, there is this sense of like, it almost feels like playing like a space sim where you have a limited amount of fuel, you know, to make it out, because you're going to, it's like, okay, I have my 10 Estus or whatever. I can make it to the end of the left half of this swamp and explore it. But even if I'm being conservative and trying to fight well, I'm still going to have like a health tax from that. It's like, how much of my fuel can fund this expedition to kind of check out those little corners.
Do I want to dip into my items at all, or is this just going to be a scouting mission where I know I'm going to go out there and dive, spend all my souls? Let me just peek. Let me just see what. And then the thing that happens all the time in Dark Souls happens here, which is you say, I'm not going to commit any resources to this. I'm just going to go look, and you go and look, and you're down to like half life, and you go, well, let me just go a little bit further. Let me just go. I think I see something. All right, this is the run. Hashtag the run. Let's do this. And then you're like, this was a mistake. Why didn't I just?
I should have run back.
I should have run back.
At least made my corpse more easy to recover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Usually
man.
that moment for me comes with an invasion.
Oh yeah.
Like I feel safe, and then like just here's yellow finger Heisel, or here's just a Farron watchdog pops out. Let's talk about some of these things that are making this so hostile. Just kind of a generality. These guys we're going to run into, these Gru. So these guys are these kind of like corrupted goat people. They have these kind of goat heads and goat legs. And these were the people who were the townspeople of Ulysseal. So you can kind of draw a direct line from those exploded heads, Ulysseal township guys, to these things. And here it's fine. Like, these are the warriors. They make a sense to me. They show up in a later area of the game I don't want to talk about yet, where I have no clue why they're here, why they're there. Here it makes sense to me. I don't know why they're there.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's not too much to them other than that they used to be townspeople. The basic ones are pretty easy to fight. We have our regular, just kind of weapon wielding ones, and then the shamans who shoot the poison cloud. Right. And then we have the leaping ones. I want to talk about these things for a second, because I have a real hard time with these things. For like they cut a really amazing silhouette. Like, I love their like stiff backed kind of stance. And then they do that like chain grab leap thing.
Yeah.
That is kind of some bullshit a little bit. Like, that kind of drives me fucking bonkers. Some bullshit.
Wow.
Like,
yes.
That's strange, because like I eventually got really good at rolling at the right time to critical them. Like I like a dragoon in a game, and I'm kind of like, I respect you, play a good game, boy, and then just roll stab. Yeah, but like it's just like I love how like they use they use kind of the oppressive low visibility against you for this. Like, they come out of nowhere and they will hold you down.
Well, the regular Grus are kind of hiding, but the leaping ones are always just like, a lot of times are in front of a fire. Like, you're meant to see those things are coming. Those aren't ambushes. And the thing about that leap thing is, I mean, I understand liking them for that thing, but I don't like any attack that where like the point is it breaks your lock on or camera. So if you're locked onto them, them leaping up is just going to like mess with your camera in a way that I don't like.
Yeah.
And
the other thing that happens is that there's sometimes just like group composition, to where it's just like, if I only ever had to fight them on their own, the leapers, then I'd probably be fine. But I always ended up in a running fight that would lead me into a different group, or I would get poisoned from the kind of the elder ones who have like the poison blast. Like, it always, that's what part of what made those specific enemy types tough for me. The leapers was like, one-on-one, I got you, but the second I bump into something else, things go bad.
Yeah. The second I have to take my eye off of you. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. So some flavor details about these guys. You get all their weapons, and they are just uniformly covered with shit. Which makes them poisonous, which is real disgusting. Also, you'll see some goat-like bodies that are tied up to the crescent moon, kind of gravestone kind of things. Crucifixes around here, not quite as numerous as the Road of Sacrifices, but that definitely says like, oh, this possibly came from there.
Sure,
like this is a custom that is shared across these regions, right?
Yeah, well, they are explicitly connected. In some way. Like, I get the sense that like the Road of Sacrifices on the way to the cathedral just kind of cuts through Farron's territory.
Yeah.
And this is there's a little bit of overlap there, but I don't think that we didn't find a huge connection between Farron's Keep and the cathedral, other than that, like, it's possible that Farron's Keep is posted up here to protect against the Abyss in Cathedral of the Deep, but I think it's much more likely that they're posted to protect against the Abyss in the next area.
Yeah.
I think
that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, they're a bulwark against something, and that is a real cool thing.
Did you guys go through the keep before going to do the cathedral, or did you what was the order of your natural play the first time through?
I went keep first.
Okay.
I got to the keep, figured out that it was the poison bog area, and then bounced back off of it and went to the cathedral and then came back.
Not now.
I mean, like, it's good that I know that you're there. I just want to make sure I'm ready for you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So this area kind of set piece wise is kind of hard to talk about because it's not linear since it's so open. So we kind of have it the critical path, and then kind of the right wall and the left wall, and then the towers in between we're going to kind of talk about. and hit up enemies and items and stuff as they show up and how they may be appropriate. So if you immediately come out and you follow the right wall, which you shouldn't do, this is going to lead to a dead end that's probably not worth it and a really, really annoying kind of set piece. But I tend to go right to left as just kind of a metric when I leave these things as well. So
it's the Daedalus heuristic, which is more than just my paperback sci-fi series that I'm writing. But you follow this along, and there's a little bit here, like you find like these new enemies, these leeches, right, that have like this really annoying kind of spit attack, and also you have this ragged mask, which is more just like for flavor, like, oh, the people who lived here, it was so bad they had to like basically make their own like sick masks out of ragged cloth.
It's great. Like it has almost no weight and has really good poison and curse defense. Like it's actually a really awesome piece of armor. So it's definitely for flavor, but it's cool. It's really, again, like what Austin was talking about earlier, where like Dark Souls seems very cruel, but actually does give you a lot of things to equip you. Like we talked about it way back in the first season. We talked about getting the spider shield right before Blight Town. You're going through the depths. Like totally. This is the same kind of thing.
You just have to be sure that you are paying attention to the humblest of items.
To the stats on these things.
Just the stats. But yeah, as you follow along, you also get prism stones. They always throw these at you. I've never used them for anything aside from setting up a dance party.
I use them to check for lethal falls.
Oh yeah.
But that's really it.
They're probably 4, but I've taken way more lethal falls with a pocket full of these stones than I ever needed to. But they're just not a thing I reach for,
Yeah.
Yeah. Sadly. I've never used them to like make the trail of breadcrumbs, which is what I think that they want you to use them for here.
Which is, which would address one of my like not complaints, because like I kind of know the game. It's hard for me to be as exasperated by a poison swamp now. Like, oh, I'm poisoned. Okay, well that's just a timer. I'll move quick.
Do you think our generation is more equipped to deal with poison swamps in real life because of the Souls games?
Mass emigration to Florida.
We just happen to walk up to one and we're like, all right, this is what we do.
You've heard lots of bad things about millennials, but let me tell you one good thing.
Let's see the Atlantic publish that. But like, just I get lost in these. Like even if I have the strategy guide in my lap and I'm looking at a map that is like correlating it, I will end up turned around. So like if I just thought to equip one of these, I just don't.
This is still, I have a better map of this than I do the Snake Forest from Bloodborne, which I feel like I never got a handle on that. That place feels like an attempt at this, but I just ran through it. Like I didn't even try to explore it, to do the like go out on excursions to like kind of peek around. I was like, no, I'm gonna get through this area. I don't care what I'm missing. I'm moving on. So good on them for bringing it back a little bit here. Well, part of that too is the Bloodborne's whole like you weren't missing any. There isn't treasure in Bloodborne really.
True.
Like there's you might get some chalice materials if you risk your life. This game at least has stuff that's worth picking up. If you keep following this right wall, we start running. This is our first group of basilisks. We've run into new basilisk, and they are different. They're more aggressive, and they have a faster moveset than old basilisks. And the shitty thing about these basilisks is that they immediately kind of coincide with the real deep water that you cannot roll fast through and cannot run through.
The deep water, the dark water. Glass shark.
That's rough.
Come. And these guys curses back to its old hijinks. It no longer just piles up and reduces your stuff. It'll kill you dead.
Well, it's the first time I got caught by them here, I died and then just laughed, just like, yep, here we are. Like, yep.
I'm happy you made that point, Austin, because I was so happy to see them. I was like, oh, there they are. Yeah, like I clapped. I was like, oh, they're back. My favorite mascot.
Man, do I want a plush basilisk?
More than anything.
Good.
Yeah, these things. One that you can like put like a candy cigarette kind of thing. Like you squeeze it and a little thing of non-toxic fog comes out. So it's never been back to its Dark Souls 1 thing. Like we still don't have curse as a status, like the half health thing.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad they didn't bring that back. So these things, and there's tons of them. Like there's so many basilisks in this area.
Oh, they like swarmed me, completely surrounded me. That was another example of the classic, like, oh, this is a bad place to be. I'm going to run in a direction. Nope, this is a worse place. I ran into a worse place.
they punished me when they did the same thing to me. And I was doing, there's a trick if you two-hand and use the weapon art for a dagger, there's a little dash you can do, and that cuts through the deep water. Like you can do it at full speed.
That's good.
And you can do it with empty FP, so you can kind of explore this whole area pretty quickly, which really helps for dodging things.
Hacks.
But you can't if you get surrounded, which I do because there are a lot of dead ends on this path too, and the basilisk kind of come up behind you. If you're switched to that weapon and you kind of panic a little bit, that weapon will not knock them out of your way. Like a dagger will not stagger them.
Right.
So it was really easy for me to kind of panic and get petrified here.
Yeah. So these familiar sites are guarding another familiar site. So there's a small little cave alcove that has the corpse of a giant mushroom person inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's Elizabeth.
Yep.
And Dusk.
It sure is.
Hey there, friend. Yeah. There's some gear on the ground. There's an open treasure chest. I feel like that's a story, but I can't quite discern what it is. But it's Dusk's gear minus the crown. We'll find that later. And also the golden scroll, which somehow conflates the Xanthus scholars with Ulasil. I think that might be that feels like a translation error because they talk about Ulasil being the place of golden sorceries, but like Xanthus is like a completely different thing. Like nothing from Ulasil was in the painted world, along with Jeremiah.
Though, yeah. There's a thing I want to talk about that I can't talk about yet, I guess, which is like, there might be a line there. In this game, there might be a line between the painted world of the past and this place.
Okay.
Not a direct line, but like there might be a way that these two spaces connect.
If I put it in a marker, can you say it, and then we'll exit out of it?
We'll bleep you out, and everyone will just assume it's just the most foul racial slurs.
That's totally it.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're back, maybe from hearing a couple of verses of classical gas. But yeah, that makes an intuitive sense to me. Yeah.
That could be the case. It still also feels a little bit though like the Xanthus stuff. It like that explains. I'm sorry if this ends up adding more classical gas.
That's fine.
It explains why the Xanthus stuff might be connected to kind of generally the real world, but not specifically to Elysial, which already has kind of a history and stuff.
Right.
So. Yeah, I don't, because the Xanthus stuff always just seemed like when it showed up in Dark Souls 1, it was just a Demon Souls Easter egg.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then it kind of had a Patches place where it's like, oh, there's just always going to be this thing. And Dark Souls 3 kind of explicitly adding characterization, adding Heisel, adding these references feels a little weird to me.
Like it literally says like, oh, it's meant to look like a mushroom, right? Like it literally talks about. So that's weird. That's a very direct.
It's that is one of the most noticeable like instances of retroactive continuity. I'm not saying retcon because like I gloss over that word when I see it, but like, oh, you're going back and changing that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, R.I.P. Dusk. And this is the first. If you're taking this path, this is the first way time you're going to be like, oh, this is explicitly. Where this is.
Yeah, and that's why I put it at the front of the notes, just in case we needed more evidence, but we'll see it.
Yeah, and the Golden Scroll lets you learn sorceries that are kind of specific to Elysial sorceries, the kind of things that Dusk taught you.
Yep. And you give those to Orback, is what you do. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So there's a tower that you can head towards if you don't take this right wall. It is, and if you follow the right wall, you'll get to it as well.
Yeah.
If you kind of go through this way,
it's a little ways in from the perimeter off the right wall.
Yeah. So, and this is also kind of near here is where you get the nameless knight armor, which is another thing that you found. You found the elite set in Darkroot. This is the starting knight armor from Dark Souls 1.
Yep.
Right.
As well.
They don't go so far as to say that it's fluted, but they talk about it being strengthened by the grooves.
Yeah, strengthened by the groove.
Yeah, much like me, a disco night at the roller rink.
Yeah. And there are a bunch of Gru here kind of holding up. And we get to our first flame that are under these kind of impression thing. And this is really like, So initially I really hated this put out the three flames thing. And I still don't think I'm totally at peace with it. It does. I mean, this is the cliche. Like a lot of people have made this comparison, but it feels very Zelda-like. Like go put out the three torches to open the door. And it feels like a way of kind of making you explore the area in kind of an artificial motivator to me a little bit. I don't get it. Like, I don't know what it adds. And there's this weird confusing lore thing here that like I first saw in a Vadi video, you have it in the notes here, is that there are these little kind of friezes, these little bas reliefs behind the fires that kind of show the different lords that we had seen from Dark Souls 1.
Yeah. So you have the four kings, the Witch of Izalith, and Nito, and they're pretty distinct.
But I don't know why. Like, what does putting out the fire of those open up? All that I can
think of is it is a way to reenact the journey of the first chosen undead by going out and snuffing out the flames of these, symbolic other things.
It's like the Stations of the Cross for the Abyss Watcher, for the Watchdogs, basically.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you think of the Abyss Watchers or, Farron's Watchdogs as like these cultists that worship, maybe not just Artorias, but maybe they know the truth that the chosen undead is the real, the real bulwark against the Abyss, then like it would make sense for them to like build this up. And I use make sense in the most loose sense.
I don't think of them that way at all. Like, I don't think there's anything to suggest that the Farron's Watchdogs like revere the chosen undead in general. Like they go through, there's like, we know the truth that Artorias was not the real deal, but there's everything, they've patterned everything else about this kind of wolf knight, who was explicitly not you. Like, I feel like the evidence that's there explicitly shoots that down. It doesn't just support it. It's like they already have a thing they worship, and it's not
it would be way easier if they had included something that said that the Watchdogs believed that Artorias was the one who did this, who linked the first flame and all that. Like, that would actually be a really cool little detail. But there's nothing here to support that reading, I don't think.
As it stands, the only connection between Artorias and these figures is that, these are the buddies of the Lord that Artorias served as he was, doing this, right? Which, I don't know what, like, how, if they knew that, if they would draw the connection between him, the slaying of these lords and, possibly holding the Abyss back, maybe.
I don't know. Nope. Not to you. I'm just saying nope to. Like, it doesn't, because the chronology is just fucked for that, because Artorias like explicitly did not coexist with the four kings,
right?
You have to go get the thing from his graveyard. Like, the chronology just doesn't work there, and I don't understand what this is getting at. Like, why, if that's the idea, which like that was probably, if you put a gun to my head and told me to come up with an explanation for it, that's very similar to what I would have come up with. But I don't want to have a gun to my head to put these things together. Like, I don't want it to be quite that like tenuous. So it just ends up still feeling very video gamey to me.
Yeah. I'll also say that like I have been confused about whether I'm lighting or extinguishing these flames since I played this game months ago for the first time. Because the thing that happens is you go up and I thought you were extinguishing it, but then you get that video of it lighting. And so then in retrospect, I always walked away thinking, oh, right, yeah, I like these. Yeah. So even now I'm not 100% sure.
I like this, like the symbolism though of like, okay, we're going to make you put out this flame, but a new flame shows up somewhere else. Like the cycle. Like, oh, the flame.
And again,
the flame definitely comes back
in the boss fight soon enough.
Yep.
Yeah. It just ends up being again kind of goofy and not like just not as supported as I want it to be.
And what sucks is it's really close. Like it's a couple of details away from being something, like I would be fine with the Station of the Cross thing, like if there was enough like corroborating details for it. Not like mechanically, like it's still weird to like go around like, just the whole Zelda comparison is real apt.
Right.
But like it just like I would like that as kind of like this first real exposition that we are kind of like walking ground we've tried before.
If these guys were like Artorias truthers, that would be kind of rad. If like this was the cult that threw away Artorias, and it was just like no, it was never Artorias, but they worship everything about Artorias, like they're super Artorias-y. It's a way cooler idea for the truth to have come out in the intervening years. That would have been really cool. It's just not what is in the game,
right?
you know, and that's the kind of the bummer, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you kind of get through these. You get this first one. This first one is not super well guarded. It's just some grew. It's not a big deal. Eventually, they get a little bit more tricksy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the interest of kind of like getting through this a little bit more, like there's one that's kind of like off to the left. If we continue like along the wall here or past those basilisks, we're going to get to the other one, but like let's kind of like dip around before we get to like this real varsity level area. By going to the left here, and we kind of see like a lot of like towers and bridges and stuff. Like this is the superstructure of this keep that is, you know, just still just like rising above the surface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you head that way, around the second one, we're kind of dipping in real quick. You get a couple interesting items without getting a lot of interesting encounters, other than the fact that we run into our first, not our first one in the game potentially, but our first Dark Wraith here of kind of many.
Yeah.
Yes, the Dark Wraith Ding, and he's guarding the Sage's Kole, which again, hello, the Sage, yes, I didn't never thought about you. You could get a lot of like Farron's Kole, like there's all kinds of Kole for you.
Yeah,
profane Kole, ooh, after dark. So yeah, he's was given to the Undead Legion by the Crystal Sage twins, which we fought one of those on our way here. And the proximity kind of makes sense, even though I'm not sure why they're connected to the area they're heavily connected to later.
Right.
I kind of read the Crystal Sage as being in league with them in some way. I think there's some item description that talks about the magic of the Crystal Sage, or the magic of the Legion being of a practical sort, and that connects it to the Crystal Sage somehow. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've looked at all those descriptions, but
it makes sense that they would be in two different places. You know, like twins are individual people.
Right.
I
keep hearing that. I'm waiting for the evidence on that one. I'm going to hold out.
No, but it by just being like one of them left and came here, and the other one stuck around back in a place where they would otherwise be.
Well, one of them went and taught a bunch of sorceries to the Farron people, and the other one got a goofy haircut. Yeah. So he would stop getting confused with his brother. So
yeah, one of them went and joined Teach for Farron. Yeah.
One of them always wears a hat.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's this other area over by the third tower here. And
this is where the big bad kind of stuff is. This is where we get our second bonfire. The keep ruins, although all of this is in ruins. It's a shambles. But this is kind of the largest concentration on the other side of this bonfire up here in the highlands, where the Gru shaman are. They will just kind of like smoke you out.
Yeah, there's one Gru shaman and two regular Grus kind of guarding this bonfire on your way here, which is a good bonfire for excursions. You can kind of head off to your right. There's a leeches guarding like a little like pagoda.
Yep.
Right.
They have the gazebo from 2 to 4, Gary.
Yeah.
They've booked it. Come on. Let them have it.
We live in a society. This is also the second appearance of Estes Soup.
Yes.
Again, with more indication that there's Solaire stuff here. I don't get it.
Yeah, that they somehow Sigurd has cooked Solaire into a soup.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
that's up.
Sure. by which you mean to say there is the Sunlight Talisman, which is a good item, and is again aligned with Solaire next to this. And also you have some Wolf's Blood Swordgrass, but we'll get to the purpose that serves here in a minute.
Yes. The cool thing here is these Elder Grus.
Yeah.
These things are awesome.
Yep.
I really like the way these things look. This is one of my favorite designs in the game.
Yeah, they're miniature Amelias.
Yeah, who use trees, like entire trees with the root system intact.
Yep.
To fight you. And they have a lot of Bloodborne things because they also shoot those little skulls that seem like they're from the Executioner's Glove or the Logarius fight from Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
This area in general started to feel like a connection forward abstractly to Bloodborne. There is also, God, I don't remember what enemy it was, if it's something closer to the actual boss fight, or if it was the Dark Wraith. Someone straight up calls you a beast when they kill you in this area. And between that and some of the clothing and weapons that the boss of this area ends up having, I got like such strong like proto Bloodborne vibes from this zone.
Yeah.
And just like there's questions of the blood in this area in a way that there isn't anywhere else in Souls, really. Like Souls isn't a blood game, it's a Souls game. It's about spirits and souls, and it's about something less material than blood.
Yeah, and we find that with the Abyss Watchers later on. The blood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's interesting. That's definitely the case here.
And I'll wrap back around to that when we get to the Abyss Watchers, because there's a specific thing that I was like, wait a second, what? And I want to save that for then.
Let's talk about, so those things are pretty tricky to fight, these big these elders. The trick to them is that they don't have tons of hit points.
Right. So if you just get up in those guts and
burn
then just
them
stare.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to tank some stuff. Because every one of their attacks sends out these little these skulls, so you can't really fight defensively. Because you're just going to stay stun locked the entire time. Like, again, just kind of a Bloodborne thing. You had to be really aggressive with these guys.
The problem with me was I made the mistake of like, this is when, so I was trying to do like an int strength build or something. I was like, oh, I know, I'll switch to magic here, and like I'll play footsies with them, and that was not happening. And it was exactly in the part of my first game where I decided to start putting points into intelligence and magic, and it was like, oh, this was a mistake. Like this isn't working. And in fact, it would have probably been fine. Like I still think the release build of Dark Souls 3 favored physical damage over magic by a long way, but at the same time, like it was the worst enemy to come against when I was trying to actually try magic out, and that was, sorceries did not do me any justice in this fight against the Elder Grew.
Yeah, 100%. It does not really help. It's good for drawing them when the three of them are having their their tribunal.
Yeah,
over a hat. They're requiem for that hat.
Yeah, they're doing their praise you dance.
Is it gonna move? I wonder who wore that hat. Do you want it? I saw it, but if you want it, you can have it.
Called doozies.
Yeah. That's okay. I mean, now you get the hat on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I get the hat on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday.
But what about Sundays, Gary?
That's when Jarl gets it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's talk about this crabulon too. This little crab set piece with this little birch here.
Yep. I love the crabulon. So this is where we get Dust's crown. I keep on wanting to say Ulasil's crown. And yeah, this is a hard fight. If you opt to participate in it. Yeah.
Well, cool. You forget that we have an ally who will help anytime. So it's only hard if we don't have giant who help anytime. And if he helps, you just kind of dodge around the crab until he gets shot with arrows.
Oh, I never got that to proc. Like I never noticed it. Like I know that there's the white birch here, but
yeah, he will. I just did it just now before we started recording. Like he will definitely kill this crab for you.
Totally.
I believe you, Gary.
No, I'm just saying it is.
It's useful.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that. This actually has the chance to be the one of these things outside of Smoldering Lake that ended up killing. So that's good. The crab that died. It is more like I wasn't making fun of you for not believing me. It's more just kind of weird that giant. There's a white birch here and a giant who will attack specifically for this one enemy. It is such a weird little micro arena in the middle of the swamp. Like you can fight this crab if you got an ally from 3 zones ago. He will shoot arrows to help you against this one giant crab. It's a hell of a shot.
Listen, that giant is a man of his word. You know, he said he'd help you.
Anytime.
He's gonna help you. Anytime.
Yeah, until he kills himself because you picked up a stick.
Real fragile.
Causality is a real hell of a thing, you know?
Yeah. It's the Magnolia of Dark Souls 3. Like Amy Mann just starts singing to you about you gotta wise up, giant. You gotta wise up.
I never realized that he could that he would factor in here. But yeah, it totally makes sense with the white birch. And I think that's the end of that chapter. Maybe
that's the end of his quest line.
Yeah, it were.
It started with him help anytime, and it ended with him having helped anytime. And then that's the giant.
Yeah. So we were joking about the hat reverie earlier. Specifically, those elder grews, they're guarding the Ferris set.
Yeah. It's not the whole set. It's just the hat.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's the hat, and then they also have the like one of them drops the bow as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the description on the hat because it says it used to belong to a great archer whose name was Ferris, but now that just describes the style of hat. So like in
So it's
Lothric,
like-
you can wear a Ferris. Like
Yeah.
MRAs in Lothric wear Ferrises. Yeah.
No, it definitely is the fedora of the Dark Souls world.
It's not a fedora, it's a Ferris.
Yeah. They're called Ferrises now.
They correct you on Twitter.
Yeah. And that's why you get those shaman grooves vaping at you.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing is just an MRA paradise in Farron's Keep.
Okay, if I saw somebody who could blow a skull with their vape smoke, I would probably buy a vape right there.
I would probably worship them
Yeah.
as a god. Like, teach me your ways.
Let's talk about the thing that's kind of looming over this entire all the proceedings here. Actually,
Okay.
This this tower that we can go up. There's
Before we get to this tower, let's since we just went to Farron's Hat, let's talk about the mushroom graveyard real quick.
Oh shit, yeah.
Because
Sorry.
that's pretty
yeah,
close
definitely.
to there. So if you don't follow all the way to the tribunal of hat considerers, there's this little corner with a bunch of dead mushroom men and a bunch of Elysial sorceries and Elysial stuff
Yeah.
around it. Again, I just said, like, let's talk about that. Like, there's a lot to it. There's a bunch of dead mushrooms and some Gru hanging out.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad. I like the mushroom men. I would have wanted to kill some more of them.
Yeah. Austin, have you seen the gifs of the unreleased like falling animations from Dark Souls 1?
I haven't. I have not seen those. I don't think.
Um,
Should I look those up?
Yeah, it's they made gifts. There are a bunch of things that can't fall in the game but have falling animations.
Oh,
The
weird.
mushroom falling animation is so good.
Yeah,
That is worth looking up.
yeah.
You
It's
can hear me Googling it live.
Yeah,
it is prime Avatar material.
yeah. Yeah.
We can move on. We can move on. You'll hear me laugh, but I'm sure I'll find it.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
But there's not too much to these guys. You find them and they're dead.
Yeah,
And it's really like, boy, is this dark root.
yeah. Just more connections. I feel like we didn't hit it hard enough when we found the dark wraith earlier.
Sorry,
There we
found the
go.
mushroom.
It landed.
oh, these are good. All right, we move on. Sorry.
I feel like we didn't hit it hard enough earlier, but like it makes sense for the dark wraiths to be here as well
Yes.
because of the abyss connection and stuff.
Oh,
The
yeah,
Abyss
definitely.
connection, and then also because and it makes sense for the Abyss Watchers to be here,
Mhm.
even though like them guarding the next area, the Catacombs of Karthus, that's Abyssy, but not super Abyssy. But it makes sense for them to be here, even just kind of as like a legacy thing,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
just because it used to be the entrance to the Abyss. But now let's get to that central kind of structure.
Yeah, so one of these bridge struts, again, a callback to Blighttown, has this large ladder, just as long as the ladder that you took down here, except you can't rush up this ladder. That will take you to kind of the small room in the center there, where we have a new covenant. A new faction here, where there's the old wolf of Farron, and you rank up by giving him belly scratches.
This is so weird though, right? Because this is a wolf, the old wolf of Farron. It's like supposed to be Sif, right, or somebody who inherited Sif's soul or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd have to be Sif, but it doesn't look like Sif.
Nope.
You know,
No,
it doesn't
I think
act like
it's
Sif.
Yeah, I think it's a second Sif. I think it's another wolf that has Sif's soul. I think
Like
that's
a
the
Siflet?
easy answer
Yeah.
in this metaphysical world, right? That
Yeah,
happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or, I guess
or
the
like
thing that,
Sif's-
again, like the thing that I actually really like about Dark Souls 2, because that's where we're going.
No, it's
is
fine.
Sometimes in Dark Souls 2, that wasn't what happened, right? Like the soul would be there and there'd be an inheritance, but it wasn't just that Gwyn was in the old Iron King. Like it wasn't that simple. You know what I mean? Like it was
Right.
it wasn't just history replays itself exactly. It's
Yeah.
that sometimes similar things line up in ways because humans have similar motivations over a long enough timeline and get power and abuse that power.
Yeah.
And I really, it's one of the things I enjoyed about Dark Souls 2, especially at launch before all the DLC, where it was just like, oh yeah, like these things, how ambiguous is the connection here? Is this thing a reincarnation, or is it just another thing in the vein, and so it winds up with the soul, or it winds up with a thing like the soul?
Mhm.
Or you have people who are like, no, I want Seath's soul. Let me get Seath's soul. Let me do everything I can with this. Well, I think this is just my like complete headcanon thing is just like, yeah, like there are wolves, and wolves sometimes care about killing the abyss, you know. And here's one of them that was really powerful for a while, and now is all cut up.
Yeah. Or, you know, like they found a wolf and raised it to be a surrogate Sif, and this is the descendant of that Sif, of the
that's
surrogate
really
Sif.
sad, actually. And it's just like,
oh,
no, you're
like
gonna
when you get a new
Sif.
pet.
Oh, yeah, it's the replacement dog, yeah.
Yeah. It's like Sif died and they went to the pet store to find a lookalike.
It's Sif too, yeah.
Yeah.
Look at a sitcom plot, a Sifcom plot.
Yeah, Sifcom. It's a situation comedy.
But wait a minute, Sif had a dot right under his left eye. Oh, wait, let me get a Sharpie. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, there we go. Hold still, mutt. The weird thing about Sif not looking like Sif in this is that, like, the time, and this is, you know, kind of a drum that I beat a lot, but it's also, this is a specific instance of it, is it's so weird to me, the areas in Dark Souls 3 where it decides to just be explicit and the areas where it doesn't. And this could have been an area where it would have been explicit and I would have thought it was cool. You know, it would have been like, oh, like, because it's so Sif. Clear. It's so clearly meant to be like a Sif stand-in. Why not just make it Sif? Yeah. You know, like you underline it every other place. Like this like restraint here with no, and Sif doesn't, the old wolf of Farron doesn't have any dialogue. We don't know anything about this wolf.
Right.
You know, the only thing we know is what we can bring with it thinking about Sif. You know, like, so it's not like it's its own character.
Let's build a little something here, though, which is if it was Sif, then the Abyss Watchers would be able to know what Artorias didn't do.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like, so like that it's not Sif. It fills in this same. It falls into that same gap of like they believe Artorias was this great hero who saved the day, and of course they're going to have the dog. They're going to have the dog too, and that's good enough. Like, here's the wolf, and just like Artorias had, and like that's it. Whereas if it was actually Sif could be like, yeah, well, things didn't really go exactly the way you want.
One scratch for Artorias did it. 2 scratches for no, he did it. You know?
Yes, exactly.
I think. I mean, you're right. That is a that's.
But they don't. But they don't lean into that, right? Like they don't. Yeah.
I just wish that like he had dialogue or something. Like even if you just talked to him and he said like, oh, you know, I'm the dog that they, you know, I mean, he wouldn't be like, I'm the dog they adopted. That'd be real weird language for Dark Souls. But if he had just been like, you know, I have been the keeper of these guys for blah, 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 like just something that made him his own character. So I had a choice other than just substituting in Sif where it's clearly not Sif.
Right.
You know?
The fact that he's called the old wolf, like, I mean, you know, like off and on throughout Dark Souls, they've used the kind of like prefix old to mean like, oh, it's from this time that you know before, right?
Yes.
Right.
You know, so
Old
like,
Dragon Slayer.
Right. So like maybe that is just kind of like you know, and who knows how that shakes out in the translation. But like that to me also kind of like, you know, lines up with it. But like, you know, I'm at war with whether or not I want this to be Sif or to be, again, the replacement dog. Like I just don't know. Yeah.
It doesn't, either way, it's not like, this is not my favorite kind of lore thing. Like this Covenant is kind of fun to, you know, to gank people like the Forest Invaders Covenant was.
It works pretty much exactly like that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
You put this thing on, you'll get summoned when people show up here.
Right.
And that's the Covenant. And you can get some items that are kind of Artorias specific from leveling it up. Specifically his great shield.
Yep. A ring that's just for show. And
a poise ring.
Yep. And a sword that has my a sword that has my favorite item description in the game. This sword, like a wolf on the prowl, boosts attack and restores HP with each consecutive hit.
That sounds like a
Duran Duran
Casey Kasem, or like a Casey Kasem introduction to a song, like that's coming up. This next sword, like a wolf on the prowl, boosts attack and restores HP with each consecutive hit.
So
it's like the old wolf curved sword. Next up,
top 10
you know
weapons.
It. I know it.
Yeah.
I
know it. You know it.
This one's dedicated to Sif 1. We miss you up there in doggy heaven, buddy. Rough.
WWLF, the wolf.
But as I say that, that's a fucked up Bloodborne connection, isn't it? Like a wolf on the prowl, as you attack, you restore HP.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, even though they had that ring before that does that thing too.
Right. I didn't want it to go unremarked upon.
Yeah. No. It does. It definitely has that kind of thing. It has like an Artorias-y moveset too. It doesn't do the twirl, the pretty twirl.
Yeah. Slice
what you can do.
foes with a large spinning motion, and then leap out of harm's way and follow through with a strong attack. So like it's a combo. It's a combo and a button.
Right.
You can also get the Dream Chaser's ashes here, which these are ashes of somebody who wanted to join the Legion. And weirdly enough, this is part of Cirrus's quest line.
I can't fathom. Also, do you have like a theory why this is connected at all?
I don't have a nope. Not even. I can't even joke. I can't even guess. Sometimes things just wind up in different places. No, nothing.
Yep.
Is there? Does anybody have a guess?
No.
I haven't read a compelling explanation of Cirrus or why the things that are important to Cirrus are where they're at.
Right.
So no clue.
Yeah. And when you give these ashes to the shrine, to the shrine maiden, the shrine maid rather, not maiden, she says
she's no maiden.
What's that?
She's no maiden.
Yeah. She's like filled with contempt. Like, these can, like nothing will grow from these. Again, implying that she grows rings from like soil that she fertilizes with these. But it's actually pretty good. Like you get some good resins. You get the green moss, like all that. Like it's good stuff. Or the green blossoms.
Things you actually might want to buy.
Yeah.
In this room, in addition with the wolf, there's also an elevator that goes up. All the way out to the bridge from where you fought the Taurus demon.
Right.
Yep.
Like here we are.
Hey guys, we're back.
It's back, baby.
Yeah. And if you're looking for a more direct connection, this is also the other side of the gap from what you saw, from where you saw the dead dragon on the bridge from the undead settlement. So like you're just up on the other side of that.
Yeah. And there's a boss here. Kind of like a mini boss.
Yeah, there's a mini boss.
Yeah. It's a new stray demon, except and like there's no music I can put in here. And that's notable actually because like it feels like they're just really comfortable putting this boss just like the other demon that you fight with Siegvard and the settlement. Like they're just comfortable putting a boss encounter and not giving it like a health bar, a name, and a soundtrack. Like this guy's just here, and he is white, he is petrified, and he has pretty much the same moveset, with like a little bit more ranged stuff to it.
Yeah, he can spit out boulders.
Right.
Which because he has a soul. Like this guy is explicitly, unlike the one we fought with Sigurd, this one gives you a soul. The cool thing, and Vadi put this out in his video, kind of shows all the different ways, but the ways this guy can die is pretty great. He takes damage to specific body parts. The first time I fought him, I knocked out his legs, and then he crawls around on just his torso. His body parts will shatter as you do enough damage to them, which is pretty rad. And I think there's 4 different ways he can die. 3 or 4. Like it's kind of surprising though, how many different ways this guy can die for just such a minor encounter.
That's funny. What that says to me is that actually they were like this was an early development kind of thing. Like, okay, let's take this enemy that kind of already exists with a moveset that we kind of already know, and like try and build this fight around an enemy that kind of like changes as you destroy some of his limbs, like even more so than we saw like in Bloodborne, right? Or change the way you can die from it. And like, it's not good enough. It's like not ready for prime time to make this a main boss encounter, or to use this element elsewhere.
We've done this work, so let's include it. Why not?
Let's put this up there. Let's put this familiar enemy in a familiar place, and dust our hands off and call it a day.
Yeah, it's actually really similar to Ludwig in the Bloodborne DLC, where you knock out his legs and he starts crawling around, just with less HP and kind of fewer moves, but. He drops a soul of the stray demon, which you can turn into my favorite pyromancy in the game, which is the one that makes you spit out a giant boulder. It's a weird spell.
Harnessing the flame to summon rock.
Yeah, just hork a boulder bigger than your body. Or Havel's Ring, which is much diminished from its Dark Souls 1. Like now it gives you plus like 12% or something like that, equip burden. It's pretty mild. And there's no reason to really armor up because there's no poise, or there's less reason to armor up. So it's not as good an item, but you do get to you make that for free from the soul here.
I found like that was actually a thing I ended up kind of enjoying about the rebalance of Havel's Ring was, in the past I decided if I was going to have a Havel's Ring play or not. And like, am I going to be am I playing this character where I'm just going to be as heavy as possible and I need every last little bit of encumbrance like ready to go. But here it was just like, this area is I want this extra little bit of armor for this resistance or something, but it pushes me over the limit that I'm aiming for. I'll toss Havels on, I'll pull something else off. And it made it a lot more flexible because I didn't have to build around it so much as I used it in place of another ring that wasn't especially useful for the area I was in,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's helped by the fact that, I mean, you saw this in Dark Souls too, but like the fact that you have 4 ring slots,
Yes,
that is a less costly decision. To get that smaller return off of it. Like it just gives you more in the margin.
This is one of the first rings you can get too. Like by the time I get to this place, I usually just have a free slot. This game is kind of a little stingy with rings.
Yeah, it is.
Which is okay, but it is definitely true. If you go to the right here, you can kind of go down this little secret area, down some ledges you have to drop down to get to the other side of this portcullis. And over here, there are a bunch of crystal lizards. There's a dead dragon. You can get the lightning spear spell, which as I try to do a faith build, not good enough.
How's that going this time? No, they decided like to scale that all the way back from 2.
Yep. Yeah. Magic does no damage.
It actually heals them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. It just makes them stronger and faster.
Whenever
you hit an enemy with
interesting
lightning.
lore implications.
And you can get the Dragon Crest shield. Which Kole has put the Dragon Quest shield in the notes, which
that is either autocorrect or me being slightly buzzed when I wrote this.
I appreciate that typo / autocorrect.
Which FP ability does that shield have? Does that have you get to use your main weapons FP ability, or does it just have parry? Because I can't remember if this is the one I ended up using a lot throughout the game.
It's a good shield. It has parry.
Okay. Yeah, I did end up using this a lot.
Yeah, it's useful. It's also a shield I used a lot in Dark Souls 1 as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you get these kind of dragon fighting things over here. And there's one pilgrim who is kind of at the portcullis.
He made it,
kind of. Yeah, there's no room at the end. Poor little guy.
And then the gate was closed, so sorry.
Yeah. You're doomed.
Yeah. So there's nothing left to do up here, but we can go back down, and in the course of snuffing out and or lighting those 3 fires, you have opened up this door, into kind of the inner keep, into the hill that kind of raises out of the swamp and towards this building that we got this kind of like crane pan over to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's some Corvians. There's story time down at the local library here, with one Corvian storyteller telling stories to a bunch of worshiping Corvians, who I love, like going up to, if you take the high path and take out the storyteller, the other ones don't notice or anything, which is a real great little thing you can do and fight these guys. But on your way up here, you will see, as you go up the hill, a couple of dark wraiths stalking out. Yeah. And it doesn't happen very often, but I love it when enemies have their own thing they're doing.
Too.
Yeah, that's really cool. They're on their way somewhere, and if you leave them alone, they'll leave you alone for now.
Yeah.
And they'll like tear through those Corvians, right? Like,
oh yeah,
it's great.
And the Grooves. Yeah,
and the Grooves, right? Yes. So that was the thing that for me it ended up being the run I would make through this area was like kind of up the right hand side, taking out the handful of I think there were Grooves off to the side, and I think I took those out, and then it was almost always a race of just like, all right, if I can just get up to the door before those dark wraiths do, I won't have to deal with them at all. But if I cross paths with them, I know it's going to be a bit of a pain, and this is just not going to be the run. This is going to be me running back to the bonfire.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I mean, like it's an interesting set piece because it sets up like, oh, these Grooves are guarding this place almost, yes. And these dark wraiths, like I'm kind of doing the same thing they are. Like I am, yes. In kind of making this incursion into their space, attacking their charge, right?
The thing that's really cool is it gave me the feeling of them returning home from campaign. And like, this is the last thing that they wanted to deal with, was that like there was trash out on the front lawn, so to speak. Of just like, we have to get somewhere. And the thing with the Abyss Watchers and their own eventual fall into the abyss, into the dark, makes that feel like, I always get the feeling from these dark wraiths that like they didn't even realize they were dark wraiths, that like they're very much the like, oh yeah, we're the good guys. We're the good guys coming home. Yeah. We're the good guys, and we're going to kill these Groo. We're going to kill these Corvians because that's what we do. We're hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that gave me this like proto Bloodborne vibe of like the line between those who hunt and the things that are being hunted, is maybe thinner than you want.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from posture, like them walking up that hill.
Totally.
Yeah, like I can. When you said that, like I had this image of them kind of just like trudging up this hill with purpose.
It's so familiar, right? Like it's like, this is our hill. We're walking up the hill. Like this is. Please get out of. No, you're not going to get out of our way. All right, cool. Here we go. You're dead now.
What are the odds that that's intentional? Like, it's like, oh, that's just their walk cycle, and then doesn't matter even. Like, I mean, it's a powerful like scene.
Either way, if they're not trying to get to the Abyss Watchers, like church or big square room or what have you, they could be trying to get back down to Karthus. Yeah, if that's the abyss that you buy going into that chalice. Just taking the chalice home, mind the gap. So we don't have to deal with this right away. There's a bonfire off to the right, which is useful because it's a pretty short kind of merciful boss run.
Yeah.
And this little area that kind of short, it's a not a very useful kind of shortcut back. But there's this little shortcut here.
We had a lot of people write in who were like, "Oh, I totally use this the shortcut because like after I defeated the Abyss Watchers and hit that wall, like it was a way for me to get back." I
just don't know why you wouldn't teleport. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like you can literally teleport. You don't have to walk back.
Yeah. Well, if they didn't defeat the Crystal Sage either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, something like that. Like I can see it, but for the purpose of the sequencing we have chosen, there's no like if you're doing it the way that we're doing it, there's no way, no reason to do this. To like to take this way. Aside from to go back here and get some items and stuff and to get
there's some items through that way, right? Like there's maybe even another Dark Wraith back that way if I remember right.
No. If you unlock that door, that's where you find the there's
a crystal lizard.
Yeah, the crystal lizard, but also like it eventually leads to the Black Knight. From Road of Sacrifices.
Right, okay, it does go back to the Black Knight. Yes. Okay, cool.
Yeah, but you can like drop down. You can get atonement and also the hollow gem if you are doing like a luck build kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you can't use the hollow gem yet. You have to get that profaned coal.
Yeah.
You got to get coal to swear up a storm.
Hey.
So you kind of head up through this little hilly area where the Dark Wraiths are cutting up the grooves here.
Cutting up, it's like they're like telling jokes.
Right. Yeah, the Dark Wraith jokes, like 101 Dark Wraith jokes on Amazon. And I never fight any of these things. I just run by.
Yep.
Yeah. Me too.
I run across the main road, go up onto that like that rise, and then make a beeline for the door rather.
If you want to summon, it makes it a little bit difficult to summon. You can get, if you're going the hollowed route, you can get a Londor Pale Shade for this fight, and he is by the bonfire,
right.
And he's useful. He teaches you a gesture when you first get him, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you can also summon Gothard, Blackhand Gothard, and you can actually summon Cirrus, which I just learned today. If you go and talk to her again after going and getting the Dreamcatcher thing.
Okay.
She's to the left of the gate. You can also summon Yellowfinger Heisel. He's around here, so you can really, everyone can play this Club Cranium if you like.
Yeah. One of my favorite details here, you might as well address it because it's the first time as like stuff shows up. The assassin, the Londor Pale Shade works for the Sable Church, which I really hope we explore in the DLC. But because of the expression on the mask that hides their hollow faces, like this kind of like coy grin, they're called the Harlots of Death. Gary, is it metal?
That's very metal, my friend.
Yeah.
That's real metal. Yes. I like it. So, but instead we're going to run past all these guys and go in here to the boss fight, step through and take on the Abyss Watchers.
Their like opening little bit is so good. It's just like
it's amazing.
Yep.
I love it,
man.
like it's so confusing too. Like the boss is fighting itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like this is the thing. Here's why I like this boss fight. This is the thing that's been like sitting in my brain forever because I couldn't put this in the review that I wrote for this game, right? The Abyss Watchers are like this amazing illustration of Dark Souls and the Dark Souls community for me, which is like, one, they worship Artorias. And think Artorias is the fucking best. Which is just such a big component of the Dark Souls like family community. Like everybody, like that's everybody. Everybody played through that DLC and was like, oh man, Artorias, Sif, like this stuff is the best. So there's that. But then two, it's just like that fight of like, oh, we're all fighting each other. We're all dueling constantly. There's just like this constant refrain of death and rebirth throughout the fight. Because as you, I guess I'll get a little bit into the mechanics of the fight here. You know, it starts off with as a kind of one-on-one fight, but very quickly, other bodies start raising out of from the kind of mass grave that is just layered throughout this entire zone.
Yeah,
it's it's a big room that's filled with bodies.
It's carpeted with dead Abyss Watchers. And
then one by one they get up. And then they start fighting you and each other. There are some with, is it the eye color is different, right? There's blue eyes and red eyes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the red ones will fight whatever's closest to them.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for me, like there is just this notion of like eternal conflict that isn't bettering anything and that is completely inescapable. That is like the central challenge that every character in every Souls game has been going through. It's just like, how do we fucking break this stupid cycle? And especially when the only way we know how to interact with anything is by continuing the cycle of violence. I'm just like, gonna keep fighting. And so like the first time I got to this boss, like I was immediately overtaken by that metaphor, but then also just as a boss fight, just like, so I've always been a person, my favorite boss fights in games are always when I'm fighting enemies that feel like the player character. Like I go back to things like Streets of Rage and think about like the boss fights in games like in beat 'em ups like that, the best ones are the ones that feel not like a giant monster necessarily or like a big boss that's not like me. It's the characters who move and act in ways that are similar to me. That's true for what I like in RPGs. It's true for what I like in action games. And so like that fight where it's just like, oh, this is just a bunch of me. This is just a bunch of people who are kitted out in gear that are just like gear I could have, at least for the first half of the fight. The second half, things go a little bit wild, but like that to me was already like this great thing. And then the other thing was just like in my playthrough, I hit this boss fight at the exact like perfect moment in my build where it was exactly as challenging as it could be to like push me to my very limits. The first time I came across it, I got very close to the halfway point of this fight, the second form. And then got crushed. But then I kept throwing myself against it and was using I guess probably what's the green moss is the stamina item? Is that correct?
Is it the green blossom or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, right. And was burning through those. I was burning through a few other important items that I was trying to prep with the fight. Oh, and I was burning through. What I was actually burning through was what is the thing that lights your stupid life bar to be higher?
The ember.
Embers.
Yeah. The ember. I was burning through embers is what I was burning through. And it was like, it came down to my final ember with this fight. And I hadn't ever even seen the second form yet. And on my first time through, I used my last ember to get that last little bit of health and beat it on the first try against that second form. And that was just like the accomplishment of gaming for me this year. It's just like that. I put the controller down. I was shaking. Like that was this moment of like, oh, right, this is why I love video games. Like this feeling here of the combination of interesting story lore stuff and gameplay challenge that can communicate something about what this like feeling accomplished in combat is not just this thing that you do because like the fight is cool, but it's also because it ties into this ridiculous long, decade of playing these Souls games that have all been about whether or not you can overcome this stupid cycle of violence and rebirth. And it was just like this. Yep, this is it. This is my favorite boss in the series. Even though I think other boss fights might have been more fun to play, and other ones have deeper lore implications, this was the one that summarized Dark Souls for me in a really clear way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. That is. I didn't have the kind of metatextual angle. I didn't pick up on or didn't hit me when I played it. But that I will buy it. Like that's a well supported and good.
When there are other things in 3 that hit that, just the return to certain stuff, right? Like the we have already talked about a Sif-like thing showing up, and then throughout the game there are just these moments where I hit spots. There's a spot towards the end of the game where you're walking. I'm not going to give specifics here, but you're walking down kind of a stone path, and there are like barricades up in front of the path leading up a stairway to a couple of doors, and it's just like, oh, like I'm in Boletaria, like I'm all the way back. And those moments were the real standouts for me of Dark Souls 3, not because they were empty reference to the past or to the games I used to play, because here they felt meaningful because it felt final in ways. It felt like we were returning to these things to actually confront them and not just escape from them for a little bit, you know?
What's funny
yeah,
is...
totally. Like those are the times, my favorite callbacks, because I take a lot of heat for not liking the callbacks in Dark Souls 3, but the architectural ones, the uncanny things where they're seizing on a feeling of familiarity you have without a direct reference.
Oh yeah, I mean,
that's exactly
it's a matter of subtlety, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
like I know the shape of ceiling, you know, something like that. Even things so small, those things really hit me
because it shows. That shows a level of craft and attention that doesn't exist in most of gaming, right? Because not only are they able to say like, oh yeah, we used this roof before, they're able to say like, yes, this ceiling will evoke something in you, because we know how deep our players are, because the core of the game is repetition. Like it's always been repeated movement through space, and so it slowly inscribes itself into your brain what this corner looks like. And so their ability to not only build that corner in the first place, but then recognize that that corner can evoke a nostalgia or something worse in you is really clever and smart. So for me, this is the boss fight that sums that up a little bit, because it's just like, this is, you know, metaphorically what these games have been. And all, like you said, all the high points for me in Dark Souls 3 are those moments. Yeah.
I mean, forgive me for using a word that's kind of loaded here, but like there's a certain amount of respect in that subtlety right there. You know, just, you know, like when they choose not to be overt, but instead like suggest it with form. Like that,
right?
It like just it feels
confident.
Like it's confident.
Yes.
It's not just respectful of the player, like whatever, you know, we've talked about like, hey, don't suck my dick, you know, just like you don't have to be like right on top of this the whole time, but also it's like it feels like it does more justice to the source material. Notice, you know, like aside from the Sif thing, we haven't really complained about the callback, even though this is like this whole area is kind of like predicated on like the, you know, it kind of like it has literally sunk into the ground on the weight of the history that it carries. Right. You know, but like it's not as like kind of like pernicious here as it is in other places.
Totally. The other thing here that I mentioned briefly is like it feels like this little nod forward to Bloodborne, in that one, like the first time they pull up, so they fight with the Abyss Watchers have like a broadsword in one hand, and then there's a weird knife in the other one. That has like almost a pistol grip. Like I swear it almost has a weird trigger on it. Your finger doesn't go on it. I don't know what that little other thing is for. I guess probably disemboweling someone. But like the stance and the movement, and like when you kill them and get the soul, you can turn it into that weapon or into the Artorias wolf longsword, right? Or greatsword. But if you turn it into that, it plays a little bit like Bloodborne in that it's just a weapon for parrying. Like you're done with no shields, parries all the time. And between that and their connection to blood, which I'll let one of you talk about, that I walked away feeling very like, I see the connection you're legally not allowed to make here.
Yeah, well, I mean, also just like their hats, like they have these like tricorn helmet kind of things. Like they cut a very similar, you know, silhouette. In comparison there, and even like the second phase of the boss fight that isn't just kind of like, okay, I'm fighting
it's Maria.
dude. It's Maria, exactly. Like you know, it's powered up with like flame blood, and then just kind of like, hey, here's this, you know, this kind of like powered up heightened duel that is using the power of this blood against you. Like it's remarkable.
And really similar to Maria, where the first half trains you for the second half. Very similar to that, where like the moves are the same thing plus a little bit, you know, plus 20%. Like, yeah, like they're a little bit more aggressive, a little bit wider hitboxes and stuff. And this is one of the bosses, like a lot of bosses in Dark Souls 3, their health bars refill halfway through. This is one of the ones where it doesn't bother me because he doesn't have mountains of health. Like it's a duel, but if you are playing reasonably, it doesn't feel, you know, egregious to me.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're aggressive in that first go, like it does not like that goes down really quickly. I want to make sure that I address this. The first part kind of evokes the Four Kings for me. It's like
definitely.
at regular intervals, a new one will come. I mean, like the Four Kings didn't fight each other, but like you really benefit from defeating these, that first phase as quickly as possible, just like you did with the Four Kings.
Some part of me really feels like someone internally at From was like, damn it, I really wish we could have figured out how to get these Four Kings to fight each other in that first boss fight. And they're like, we'll do it this time. We got it this time.
Well, it's real similar because the kind of lore suppositions that people have about why they're fighting each other are real similar to that. Mm-hmm. They have the same thing that the Four Kings do, where they share a soul.
Right.
So like this idea that like they are driven mad, or the ones that come through have the red eyes, which are sometimes associated with the abyss.
Right.
So those have to die no matter what. But it's similar to the Four Kings, where they share a soul, and that being a reason why they might try to kill each other.
That's another thing really quick before you move on that I love about that fight is just like, it was me learning to use the red-eyed ones against the blue-eyed ones. And that's just this great, like, no, that's how you fucking fall in the trap. You're like, oh no, I'll let the abyss one help me for a little bit. No, you fool. Like that's how they get you.
I read this. My first thought when I saw these guys, why they were fighting, and this was again, I'll put in the show notes. I keep referencing the lore through the body thing on here because we were both wrong, but had the same first impression. Was I thought they were training, which I thought was awesome. Like if you were hollowed and like you just always came back to life, the idea that they were so dedicated that like they would literally just murder one another, like disembowel each other to learn how to disembowel better.
Yeah, our lives are cheap, but the lives of the people that we're protecting from this are not.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's worth this pain. I had that kind of Wolverine vibe, and then, I think it actually probably is that shared soul kind of thing. The chronology is a little bit confusing. A lot of people are saying that their soul became fused when they linked the fire. One way or another.
There's also the soul of the blood of the wolf. So you're getting the soul of the blood after you defeat them. Says that the blood was spread among them, and their souls were one with the soul of the wolf blood master.
Yes.
So
they drink that blood again, that bloodborne thing.
Yeah, I mean,
they drink the blood of the wolf, right? Like that is literally what they do. Which that's a choice to make, you know. And
like I'm like the chalice that on the kind of like altar that moves at the end. That is totally where they drink all that blood from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is cool. That's cool. I guess that's what we're doing now. We're drinking blood.
Why not? Whatever helps.
Yeah.
As a fight, it's I like this fight a lot because it is a duel, which I'm with you as far as that. Like I'm one of those filthy Dark Souls Artorias worshippers because that fight is the first like real good duel in Dark Souls in the series. I feel
so good. It is so good. So like I count myself among them, but I also see my own sin.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, like so saying it's a duel, like there's a large portion of this, and like the figure that this strikes, at least on first impression, is that it is going to be another another mob fight. That's what it can be, but the fact that it is like this kind of like amorphous halfway step between the two of them, I think makes that even more significant.
It's really cool. The surprise when I started fighting them and the other one came up, I'm like, okay, I'm fighting two of these things. The third one popped up and I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to try to DPS this. But when the third one attacked the second one was such a delightful moment of surprise for me. Like, just like, oh shit. Like I have not seen this in a Dark Souls. Like as somebody who has, thought about every boss in the series an awful lot. I've not seen this before. And every time something can actually be new, I'm pretty into it.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite boss fights in the game. Like I really like this boss fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's not like you said, Austin, it's not the hardest in the world. Like if you're really aggressive, you can get through it pretty easily. But again, like difficulty does not equal success in these boss fights for me.
Right.
Like, or quality, I guess.
Yeah.
Just think about all the other boss fights in Souls history that would have been better if one of the enemies turned on the other ones. That's all. Just think about the Rune Sentinels. If one of them had just swung even once at one of the others,
or if their attacks could hurt each other. Yeah.
Right. Totally. Yeah. That would have been enough, frankly.
Yep. Yeah. to make that fight not just terrible.
But I still, again, like I think even that is from the metatextual point of just like you've been trained over the course of the series to deal with multiple enemies at a time, even in boss fights, to ratchet that up to a ridiculous, hilarious degree. And like here, the restraint, a little bit more restraint, but like still that concept is here, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, this is super successful.
I'm really glad that the first Lord of Cinder that we actually fight is such a cool fight.
Oh yeah,
in this.
And it doesn't read as a Lord of Cinder. I mean, it's a group of people.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing for me was like it felt like, I mean, I'm sure you've spoken a bit about the structure of this game in comparison to both 1 and 2, and even of Demon Souls and Bloodborne, where it feels it sometimes feels like there isn't a first act to this game, that like you're immediately in the I'm going after the Lords mode, instead of ringing bells or whatever. But at the same time, it felt so long before I actually fought these guys, like because I'd done I ended up bouncing off of them and going to the cathedral, or not bouncing off of them, but bouncing off of the keep and going to the cathedral and dealing with all of that first. That like I kept, and when you go to the cathedral, I thought like, oh, I'm gonna go fight Aldrich. He's gonna be here, of course. And then like, no, that was pulled out from under me. Or like there are other moments when people say like, oh, go to this church or go to that, go here or there, and I thought like, okay, well that'll be my first Lord of Cinder. No. And so finally you get to them and it's this, and like that's a really rewarding moment. Like that was one of the moments of me feeling like, all right, I'm still very hopeful for what the rest of this game brings, because this was a kind of a make or break moment. Like this is supposed to be the set piece. Like these are the set pieces. The Lord fights have to be, at their best, really, really good. Otherwise, I won't have something fun to talk about. Like otherwise, I'm just going to end up saying, I wish this smaller minor boss was cool. And I've felt that way about games before in the series, So I was really happy with this one.
Yeah. I love the anticlimax of, so you get there, you get the soul, and we talked about the items that it could turn into, either this dual wielding thing or the the classic sword that I'm holding a replica of right now, the little letter opener thing. But you also get the cinders of a lord, right? And the anticlimax of, like, I was thinking when I was first playing this, I'm going to take this back. Those thrones are
totally
like a set piece in this, and we have little guy. Jimmy, Jimmy Ludlith. He, he's talking and he gives a little bit, like, I was expecting, like, we're gonna return them to their seat, and it's gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna talk with them, and I'm gonna get more of the story.
They're gonna be right, like, oh, they're gonna be an NPC, and then they're gonna be able to tell me more.
Right? No, you're just straight up putting their ashes on there, and like that's okay. Like technically, you're correct. Yep. There's nothing saying that some ashes can't play basketball. And so
we've rules lawyered the metaphysics of this world. All it says, there has to be a Lord of Cinder on the throne. That's all it says.
It's like in a movie where they cut off someone's hand to use it for a fingerprint scanner.
Exactly.
Yes.
Or like put their eye up to a retinal scanner, like that.
And it's awesome because, like, Hawkwood, as we learn, like, he used to be like, he's a deserter because he left these guys. Like, he sees in this, like with disdain, like, okay, they became lords, but like this is ultimately what we're reduced to, and like it is kind of this ultimate humiliation for what used to be the most effective force against the abyss, now reduced to this. And like we kind of see them, like in this miniature arc throughout the boss fight, go from like just like infighting to like the height of their powers down to just like being a tool for the cycle. And like I think that like that resonates so hard with me, like that arc that we see right away in that.
Right.
I think that I would have I like the idea of it just being, you can just take any part of their body and stick it on here and it counts. I still feel like maybe not with these guys, but with a couple of the Lords of Cinder later, that the game would have been better served by having there be like a little Jimmy Ludlith that pops up, or like something that came up to get a little bit more context, specifically for Yorm. But like just having a little bit more information would have been better. The weird way that, like, I feel like Dark Souls 3, I wish I had a little bit more text to it, to connect some of those dots. But that's
one of those things in Dark Souls 2. You got that NPC, you got the cat Shalkor, who would say, like, eventually in the story, she would eventually start giving you extra info on the major bosses. She's like, oh, here's a little extra, backstory on that. And I'd hoped that Lilith would give me more each time, that like actually made me feel a little more satiated, and that didn't really happen. Like I think he gave me a little bit more once or twice, but not like enough to feel like, oh yeah, that's close the chapter on them. I got it,
Yeah. And these guys get like, because Hawkwood talks about these guys whenever he has the opportunity, which is like kind of an Eaton version. He's not the crestfallen guy that we've seen in every other game. Like he's got a place in this world. But there's nobody, after you beat any of the other Lords of Cinder, it's not like there's anybody around to talk about them, and that kind of bums me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I wish there was a little bit more of that kind of, say new stuff, like when you play a video game and you go do something really cool and nobody in town reacts to it. There's a little bit of that going on.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't help that sometimes it feels like some of these NPCs should have something to say about what I just did. Like, you have, I know what, this. You have something to say. Say a thing. Don't give me the silent treatment on this.
All of us have a stake in this. God damn it!
You told me to do this. Go do it. For sure. Hawkwood. So as we mentioned, he thanks you for killing them, and he gives you the Farron ring. And he will actually leave the shrine, and he leaves with Andre. I don't think you have it as a shield. It's a special sword grass.
Oh, okay.
He leaves there. That tells you where he's going. But we can't get there yet. So we'll finish out his quest line a long time from now.
Yep.
Quite a while.
Yeah.
From now. But for now, this chalice where they drink that blood kind of recedes, and there's a stairway down which leads to the next area.
Right.
Of the game, which we'll be getting to next time.
Yeah, the Catacombs of Karthus.
Yes, exciting. Which we're exploring with Bob Mackey of Retronauts.
That's exciting.
Fame.
Bob's a good guy. Bob, that'll be a fun episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob is one of my oldest pod friends.
Yeah.
So he's a series regular.
Yeah.
And super excited about it. Do we have any other wrap up thoughts on Farron? Anything we didn't cover during the episode?
I'd be tempted to say this is a big disparity between quality of boss and quality of area, but like even going back through this, I like the area. Like I think that learning to not be bothered by the poison and just being like, okay, this is what it's going to be. Like this feels like a very good expression, the best expression of like the poison bog that I've seen. It's kind of more eventful, more dense with incident than Blighttown is, and it's not as kind of like punishing and just kind of like quick to hand failure, to strike failure down on you as 5.2 is. I think that like if this is the last version of this that we see, you can argue about whether or not it's worth them doing it again. And I think also
I'm
good.
I'm probably a little less positive, a little bit, but at the same time, I think because of the quality of that boss fight, I left that whole area feeling really high on it. I left wanting to make apologies for the pain I was in hours before, and that's a perfectly fine feeling. Whereas in the previous poison areas, that was not the case. I didn't really. I'm trying to think who the boss is. Who was the boss after Blighttown?
That was Quillag, and then we also had the Dirty Colossus in Demons.
Yeah, like
got that name.
I like Quillag, but nothing that never. Those boss fights didn't feel like necessarily components of the same whole. Whereas here, I really do feel like fighting the Abyss Watchers was like, okay, yeah, like this fits into this dark, terrible place I was just at really well, and like I left it feeling higher than I thought I would when I was in the middle of it. So
yeah, like Quillag has pathos after the fact, like from a lore standpoint.
Yes, absolutely.
This is infused with it entirely. It's soaking in pathos.
Yeah.
I
mean, I really love Quillag. Like that, and even that boss fight was a real wall for me, and like that was really important since it was my first playthrough of the game. I think like I like this boss fight fantastically. And the area I like, even though I think that like the swamp areas do lose a little bit when they lose that verticality. Like 5.2 is maybe a little bit harsh because the penalty for falling in 5.2 is backtracking and poison. But 5.1 is kind of maybe the platonic ideal of a Blighttown situation to me. Like going through the kind of hovels and people like sleeping in rags and stuff like that. That kind of like I associate these areas with poverty in a way that I don't with Farron's Keep. Very much. Like it doesn't seem like it just seems like monsters live here a little bit. It doesn't feel like a town, which they always had before, which I really liked. This is just monsters Like, and that's cool. Monsters are cool, but it loses a little bit for me because of that. Yeah. I think
only evil lives here.
Yes, that's gate, gate 1. It is. Whereas, this is more like gate 3. Pick up your weapons and fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still really, I still really like it. Like, I love all my children, except for
except for all of Dark Souls 3 and most of Bloodborne.
Yes, according to my Ask FM. There's the one area that I explicitly kind of hate from later in the game, but I can't spoil it because it's a spoiler.
Well, now I'm excited.
Yeah, I will tell you when we let you off the hook. Austin, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Austin_Walker, and starting July 5th at Vice.com/gaming. I think it's gaming. I think it's it's game. Nope. Yep. It's gaming. Vice.com/gaming. We'll have a new actual website. No, that's wrong. It's not /gaming at all. I'm a liar.
Do you want to retake that clean?
Oh, no, I was right. It's Vice.com/gaming. I don't know how I fucked it up.
What a roller coaster.
Yeah. Quit playing games by heart, man.
My dreams into my car.
And then you can listen to, sorry, there seems to be a loud emergency thing happening outside. I'll wait for that is that not coming through?
I think it adds a little bit of gravitas to what you're saying.
Okay, that's good. So you can also find the tabletop. Now there it is. It's really loud now. You can also find the tabletop game podcast that I do at friendsathetable.net. We play games. We've kind of had two big campaigns. One is a fantasy game. One is a kind of cyberpunk mecha anime thing. So that's friendsathetable.net. You can find us on iTunes. We're getting ready to do an interlude game for new people to jump on, and that is using a game called The Quiet Year, which is a map drawing game where you kind of all just draw a map and play out a year in a kind of a community's life, a community after a kind of a post-apocalyptic event. And then we're going to use that map as the basis for a city in a game called Blades in the Dark.
Fantastic.
Which is Blades in the Dark is a game that's deeply inspired by things like Dishonored or 80 Days, kind of like steampunky, but still with a real politics, not just an aesthetic. And so I'm really excited about that and really looking forward to that. So that's friendsathetable.net.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, recommended. Most people who listen to us know, like we said, you're one of our most requested guests of all time, and I think most people know. But your work is recommended. I'm a big fan of your writing, and stuff. I
appreciate
didn't get in.
That means a lot.
I really do like it. The most of the stuff I saw was on Paste, and I remember yours was the review. I was looking for reviews of that Shadowrun spinoff thing that wasn't the Returns, but
the Boston or
Chronicle, Shadowrun Chronicles Boston Lockdown. I think is what it was called.
A lot of colons.
Can you tell that it left an impression and maybe not a good one? God, yeah. Sorry, I'm just thinking about bad cyberpunk games and how frustrating they are. Because when they're good, and when they're not.
The way that you had me when I read that review is that you referenced the Sega Genesis one in there, and it's one of the first games we did for our Watch Out for Fireballs podcast, and that game's real special to me. So
that game is so good. I'll dig up that episode now because I just want to hear you guys talk about that game because it's really good.
Episode number 7.
Yeah,
I'll dig it up.
Cool. Yeah, very cool.
Thanks so much for having me on, guys.
We really appreciate it, Austin.
Yeah, so we let Austin go, which wanted to say thank you again, which we said a bunch on there, but just we did the bonfire side chat, our cruel ritual of just talking ridiculous amounts of sugar about our guest afterwards.
Yep. The whole such a nice guy thing.
Yeah. And just what a great dude.
Yeah.
Bob's great. Yep. Bob was I don't want to make Bob feel jealous. I love Bob so much. Good friend of mine. Looking forward to that episode as well. So we're very lucky to do what we do.
Yes, we are. Get to meet some very nice and cool people.
Yes, absolutely. So if you like our show, the most concrete way you can support us is to first, if you have anything to say about the Catacombs of Carthus,
yes,
hit us up at Duckfeed.tv /contact. That's first on your agenda. Number two, if you want to support us, head on over to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, and you can give us a couple bucks a month. It gives you access to our Slack channel, which is a really positive community online, and also gives you some other stuff, and gives you the warm fuzzies of supporting a show that you like.
Yeah, and the reason that is called Duckfeed.tv and not just Bonfireside Chat is because we run a whole network of shows, and we've made a push here because we really want people to listen to those as well. So Duckfeed.tv is a URL, and you can find shows like Watch Out for Fireballs or Abject Suffering or Teenage Dirtbags. Any of these are things that we are really passionate about, that we love doing, just as much as we love doing this. And we would love it if you guys kind of came along and listened to those.
Yeah, give them a shot.
Yeah.
Not everything is for everyone. Maybe you just like Souls. That's fine, but give them a shot. You can also rate and review this show on iTunes. That helps out quite a bit. If you dig the show, make your voices heard.
Yes, please.
That is appreciated. And if you dig the show, make your voices heard on message boards and on Twitter, things like that. Tell people, hey, I'm looking for a new podcast, or I'm just getting into Dark Souls. Point them our direction.
Yep. The beginning of any of our seasons is a great place for somebody who's new to the series to start. So
yeah, and if you'll never own a PS3, you can listen to our Demon Souls series and get that kind of vicariously. Or you'll never own a PS4.
Or if you're like, hey, there's this weird sword in Farron's Keep that was really big. I wonder where that's from. Listen to our series on Berserk.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Selfishly here, I would like to say that kind of under a lot of this stuff, I have restarted a new project called Hexcrank. That is my used to be just my survival horror blog. I've blown it out into its own site. Just here a couple weeks ago, put up the Alone in the Dark retrospective, and working on the Darkseid one that has article and video component to it, and then also streaming component as well. I stream at twitch.tv/DuckFeed.tv, working on Deadly Premonition as we are talking about this. Want to do that right there. Just finished up Rule of Rose, a very rare survival horror game. I'm really passionate about that, and if you like games like Resident Evil or Silent Hill, I'd love to have you come and check that out.
Yeah, nothing selfish about that. This is the place for that. So if you like Kole, this is the you can get some more Kole, and if you like horror, you can get more horror. And when those two things come together, it's profane Kole.
Ooh boy,
and that's what we want. So
yeah,
fucking profane Kole.
Kick ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Swears. Tit.
Singular.
Yeah. I keep thinking of trying to figure a way to put it in somewhere, like somebody talking about a strip club where they let you touch the tit. I think it's a funny sentence. Like, did they let you touch the tit?
I'm just picturing like a single massive one at the center of the room.
Yeah, me too. Like it really takes the imagination and runs with it.
To that one place that we both went to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even then, or just some guy referring to general boobs in general as just the tit, I think is also kind of funny in a perverse kind of profane Kole kind of way. Anything else? Any other
no, not that I can think of. Just write in with your responses and keep on listening. We're super happy to have you here.
Yeah, we'll see you in a week.
Yeah.
What else should they do?
They should pity the poor souls.
Umbasa.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon.
Pity the poor souls, for they were a lust penis.
Yes, you were a lust penis. Yes. I'm a luck dragon.